Hi, Sam. It's so lovely for me to meet you, and it's so lovely to be here. And hi, everyone that has joined. I am excited because you're so far away, and I'm excited that we can have this conversation at the same time zone. So, thank you for making the time to be here.
It's a
It's really
pleasure.
lovely for
I'm
you.
so excited. Yes, can't wait.
Okay, so I'll do a short intro, and for anyone that's out there, please just know that you can add your questions in the chat, and we're going to get there in the end. I'm going to try and stick with time. I do have ADHD, so time blindness is definitely a thing for me, but I'm going to try my best to stick within the times. So I'm Karla Pretorius. I'm a PhD researcher. I'm a registered psychotherapist, and I'm the clinical lead for Caboose, which is an inclusive and safe online community for neurodivergent people to connect, learn, and find purpose. We build this with neurodivergent individuals. So it's a neurodivergent community built by neurodivergent people, which I think is amazing. And then it is being recorded, this divergent discussion. So we'll be sending out a copy to everybody that's joined. And we'll also, like I said, have time in the end for some questions. So please just add them in the chat. Sam, I'm going to do your bio now. Please change it as you see fit. So Sam Wool is the founder and head of program at AS Social, a thriving digital platform and online community built by and for autistic people since 2019. I absolutely love that. AS, am I saying it right?
Yes,
AS
no, that's
Social.
completely right. Yeah.
Okay, so AS Social offers mentorship, social skills training, and sensory profile development designed to empower autistic adults through connection and practical support. An autistic adult and certified social skills coach, Sam leads programs that help participants identify their sensory systems, create personalized sensory toolkits, and apply sensory strategies in real world settings, supporting confidence, well being, and social engagement. Awesome.
Excellent. I love not having to introduce myself. So, yay.
Oh, that's great. Yes, yeah. Every time somebody tells me to introduce myself, I'm like, "Hi, I'm Karla." I feel like I just got to some weird community that I have to like say something that's profound. I have such a cool story for you because I just had a client now this morning,
Mhm,
and we were talking about different sensory profiles. So
mhm,
I do want to ask you on that because
mhm,
she was actually saying she's moving from the UK. She's autistic and she's moving to a country that's extremely hot,
mhm,
and she's worried about her interoception,
mhm,
and like
mhm,
her sense of temperature changes.
mhm,
So let's start with the basics. What
mhm.
exactly is a sensory profile for anyone that's out there and that's listening, and how is it different from sensory overload?
Yeah, okay. This is a good question because a lot of the time, when we're talking about sensory, the definition of sensory profile or overwhelm or interaction is kind of muddled. So, um, sensory profile, I like to think of it as a person's individual algorithm of their sensory processing responses. So it's
Yes.
yeah, a bit more of a profile about how you interpret sensory, how that impacts your body, and then how you respond to that. And that's different from sensory overload or overwhelm, um, in that that's often a response to that sensory input, and not necessarily, yeah, part of your sensory DNA, if you
Mm.
will.
And it's probably so important to know what your sensory profile is telling you so that you don't kind of lead into overwhelm
Mm,
when you're moving countries, for example, or just for me, it's like literally just going to the grocery store. I need to
exactly.
be super aware of my sensory profile.
Yeah, sometimes
Um,
it might seem make more sense to disrupt your whole sensory environment by moving to a different country than just having the same response as going to the supermarket.
Yeah, exactly. But also, like, I think it's important to know that, and we'll probably get there with this conversation, but know that our sensory profiles also change
Mm-hmm.
from the morning to the afternoon to night.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes in the morning, I might need a really quiet environment, whereas other mornings when I'm probably more lethargic, I might need a bit more of a louder environment. So
Mm-hmm.
it's so important to be aware of the changes that we notice and make ourselves aware. I think
Mm-hmm.
that's
Mm-hmm.
so important. What are some of the key sensory systems that we all should know about?
Mm. Yeah, well, I'm sure like we're all familiar with, our basic five senses, which, uh, might be the only senses that we're aware of when we're talking about sensory input. But
I
that's
think let's go
only,
through them. Yeah.
so that's tactile, touch, sight, hearing, smell, and taste.
Mm.
So those are the kind of, when we're in a grade one and we have, our senses in the classroom, those are the kind of the five things that we identify with senses. But they're really only explaining one aspect of sensory, our external input to sensory. So our environment around us and how that information is received by our body and brain. So beyond that, we have our internal sensory systems, um, which are I like to think of them as the forgotten four. Beyond the basic five, so we have proprioception, vestibular, and interoception, and our limbic system as well, which is kind of within that interoception system as well. It can kind of be split into two different kind of networks for our senses. So those things, that really, really, it becomes more complex once we recognize these things. These are a lot of internal, regulatory, physiological, responses and processes to our sensory environment, not just what is going on in our environment around us.
Mm-hmm. I think it's important. Should we delve into some
Mm,
details on
yeah,
those? Because I think a lot of people might wonder, like, what is interoception or what
yeah.
is proprioception?
Of course. So I've written some notes here just so I don't go off
Yeah,
track.
yeah, of course.
So proprioception is like our body's awareness and movement. So that where we are in space,
Mm.
in relation to things around us, our balance. I'm getting ahead of myself. Um, vestibular
Kind of
is
like
our
a
pardon?
like I see proprioception as like our GPS
Yes,
inside our
the
bodies. It's kind of
navigation.
like,
Yeah.
yes, exactly, like to help us. Okay, so I need to go get coffee. That means that I need to exit this tiny little door because I live
Hmm.
in a hobbit
Hmm.
house, it seems, and I need to make sure that I bend my head down when I go down. And then the vestibular is kind of like going down, like balancing,
Balancing this,
right?
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So exactly that. Um, vestibular, spatial awareness, balance, core strength, even. All these things are talking to each other, and we have to be reactive in live situations, which becomes quite difficult to discern which is which.
Yeah.
Um, and our interoception, beyond that, beyond our bodily movement, is our internal systems. And so that's like our body temperature regulation, our hunger signals,
Mm.
digestive tracts, like all of these things are really sensory signals for us.
Mm.
And
My interoception is horrendous. I never know when I'm hungry, so I always get hangry. And it's that
that's it. You
moment
don't
where you're
realize
just
you're hungry until you're starving and you need to eat immediately.
exactly. And usually what I know is that I would snap at people, like not my clients, of course, but people that would say, "Hey, do you want a coffee?" Yes, of course I want a coffee, as if they should have known this like an hour ago that I needed a coffee and a
Hmm.
cookie. But it's theory of mind, obviously paired with that, which we
Hmm.
struggle with as neurodivergent individuals. Like people
Hmm.
should
Hmm.
know, like I need some snacks. Like just feed me snacks. That's really and then also, yeah, the toilet, but the temperature control there comes into play a lot. I think with
Hmm.
neurodivergent individuals, sometimes don't know how much it affects us. I always
Mm-hmm.
thought that everybody felt this intense when they're
Mm-hmm.
outside and there's like a heat wave all of a sudden,
Exactly.
and I get a rash.
Mm.
And, I thought I was being super sensitive, but it's actually
Mm-hmm.
my body's way of reacting to
Mm-hmm.
the temperature changes.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
I'm,
And
yeah.
it's there doesn't seem to be a standard, for people. There's not one you know, one thing that's kind of determining whether you're hot or cold. It's impacted by so many different inputs, neurological function, our environment. So, when it is normal to you, when this is, your how you've been functioning and operating for as long as you can remember, it's really difficult to understand that is, unregulated or disrupted
Mm.
in your own
Mm.
system.
I'm really interested in the limbic system that you were talking about. So limbic
Hmm.
is obviously that's where our emotions are. Would you say that would be more like an affective sense, or how would you
Well,
describe that?
I do. It is sensory in the way that our sensory input is translated into emotion. So, how we perceive and display and understand emotion through our body, which is actually, I think, directly related to sensory in that sense. We process our emotions, our memories, our things like this um, are sensory. I don't know what I'm trying to say. Sensory directly sensory related in my
Mm.
view. Uh,
Yeah, that's interesting.
it's
I
not
like the
just
fact, yeah, it's not just the actual environment, but it's also like
mm,
how we interpret the environment within our
mm,
bodies.
mm-hmm.
Do you I wanted to ask you about this because this kind of directly relates also to a conversation that I had this morning was on alexithymia, right? So like
Mm-hmm.
the difficulty in noticing what we're feeling. And I think that's also something that maybe has that link with the limbic system. And it's like, how do
Mm-hmm.
we interpret this emotion? Do we interpret it according to our physiological signs
Mm-hmm.
that we're receiving, or is it a feeling that we can identify? And as autistic individuals and ADHDers, we struggle with that, right?
Well, exactly. And this is something that I just, it's another nuance. Our understanding of emotions beyond sensory, as neurodivergent people, is already, yeah, more complex than that. We have difficulty communicating those things, identifying them, labeling them, and
Mm-hmm.
even recognizing them as emotion. A lot of the
Mm-hmm.
time, the physiological response of those emotions is our only indicator that that is an emotion. So it's there's so many systems that really go into play, like and interact here, and of course, there's no defining factor when we're
Mm-hmm.
talking about those things. They're impacted by everything, and they're defined by our own understanding of self. I think, which is really the key. Uh, uh, Support here, or the key understanding
Mm-hmm.
factor when it comes to sensory.
Yeah, I think it's so important. One of the questions that we have here: how do sensory preferences or sensitivities show up differently in different people?
Mm,
I just wanted to add an anecdote there, or
yeah.
I don't even know if that's the way you say it, but one of the stories that I have with a client is that she was exercising and she thought the next day she was very low mood, so she always thought, oh, no, I'm not going to exercise because every time I exercise I've got, like, she felt like she was depressed the next day, but it was actually her body just showing like I'm tired.
Yeah.
So
Fatigue.
and exactly, and that it feels the same, right? So it's
Hmm.
so important to to know like what
Mhm.
that is. But I want to hear your thoughts about the sensory preferences or sensitivities, how they can show up for different people. Sorry, my dog is drinking water in the background if you can hear that.
Yeah, oh, this is, I'm just trying to find where I wrote this down because they're brain dead at this point. Yeah, they're different for everyone, like you mentioned, and how we connect that to our sensory is completely individual. So just give me a second. Oh yeah. So two people, they might have the same, the same key indicators of their sensory profile. They might have the same sensitivities, you know, as individuals, but the way that their body interprets that information, responds to that, and then acts upon that could be completely different. So, two people could, be tactile sensitive, have that as a major sensory sensitivity. And the way that it presents, the way that it's managed, the way that it is perceived by the outside world, you would never know that they are talking about the same sense,
Mm,
and
yeah.
sensory is, impacted by our genetics, our environment, and our overall health as well. So, you know, um, those things create a lot of individual nuance for
Mm.
sensory.
Yeah, I think it's important to know that if you're sensory sensitive in one area, that
Mm-hmm.
it could show up differently and it needs to be managed differently. That's such a good point.
Mm.
Because not, noise canceling headphones is such a go-to for everyone,
Mm-hmm.
but a lot
It,
of people don't like that feeling.
it could make them feel like, they're lost in space and
Mm,
isolated,
yeah.
So yeah, there's so many things that there's, of course, a lot of commonality and, you know, uh, go tos, like you said, with the noise cancelling and these generalized supports and that we have, that everyone can kind of identify with. But down at the core of it, it is what works for you, and it is how
Mm,
your body is interpreting that sensory input, which can be impacted by trauma, it can be impacted by your
mm,
diet, it can be impacted by so many different things,
mm,
that seemingly it's unrelated to sensory, until you really start to
mm.
understand these things.
Yeah, and it's important also to know that it changes, so
Mm.
it could be again, like you might like it today and tomorrow you don't like it.
Or to
That's
get
one
different
of,
outcomes as well. Sometimes
mm,
it's, you want the loud noises around you to,
exactly. Yeah.
yeah. So,
I find it I want the loud noises if I'm in control of the loud noises. So if it's my
if it's
music,
good music,
for
yeah.
sure. We can listen to Jeremy Loops all day long,
Yeah.
and even to my sister-in-law's music, which is amazing. Anna Wolf, she like I can listen to it all day long. But if it's anything else, I'm like, no, that's too loud. Sorry, I'm sensory sensitive. And my friends are like, but
Your headphones,
doesn't add
we can
up.
hear your headphones, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's a great point too. When it comes to sensory, that control or management, often allows us to engage with those sensory environments that are otherwise overwhelming and traumatizing
Mm,
and negatively impacting us.
exactly.
So yeah, once you start to have that, control over those things, yes, it can be fun
Mm,
because you're
yeah.
dictating it.
Exactly. And it's also showing you that some of the things that you might have been afraid of as a kid
Mm,
because it was
mm,
kind of put on you,
mhm,
if you're in control, you
mhm,
can take control and empower yourself again. I know that I had a discussion with Dr. Temple Grandin about this,
mm.
and she said, just give the kid the vacuum cleaner. If they're scared of it, just tell them that they can do the cleaning if they want to. And they said, and she said, that, like you find kids that start loving the vacuum cleaner, and they're just like vacuuming all day long because they're in
It's like
charge
their
of it.
white
They're in
noise
control.
machine, man. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, true. Oh, I could talk to you for ages about this, but I need to stay on track. Okay,
Mhm.
so that's one of the misconceptions. What are
Mm.
some other misconceptions about sensory processing that you would like
Um,
to talk about?
yeah, so I think one of the main misconceptions, and probably maybe even the most common misconception, is that they are preferences. You know, when we're talking about sensory sensitivities and our sensory profile, it isn't just a preference. It's our body's response to things. So, you know, these aren't things that like, oh, we know that, you know, you're really sensory disrupted and, you know, you hate the wind, but like, you know, you can just get over that today and come out and do that thing.
Mm,
It's like, well, yes, all well and good. And some moments, you know, we can be in situations where we can engage, like we said, with the world around us in that way. But it isn't just a preference. Like these are our
mm.
body's responses to
It's
and
like a need.
neurologically
Yeah.
like to our sensory environment. So it's
Mm,
not about being picky or like, you know, you're
mm,
so whatever. Like these are actual needs and
mm,
not just a preference. I think that is one of the biggest things that like people
mm,
still, and even people who, you know, are going through this sensory journey, you know, like it can be really invalidating for us to think that way because of, you know, everyone else around us and clinicians even etc are
mm,
really not putting the emphasis on sensory. So I think
mm,
preferences, I'm like, I like uh, cold wine on a summer afternoon. You know, that's a preference. You know,
yeah.
and when we talk about sensory as well, there's like diet restrictions and things like this
Mm,
that are so impacted by our sensory sensitivities and aren't
mm,
actually food related, like or taste related.
yeah.
So those things can heavily impact our overall well-being and ongoing quality of life if it's perceived as like,
Mm,
oh, just eat your rice or, you know, do that thing that's a preference or you're
mm,
just picky. So I think that's a major one, and that kind of leads into the next one that I've made note of, which is like through exposing ourselves to sensory input that we can learn to mute that out. That's like exposure therapy. That will not work when we are talking about
mm,
sensory um, sensitivities and our sensory profile. Like that actually creates, you know, anxiety, PTSD, trauma responses within our neural pathways connected to
mm,
sensory, which then impact us, you know, even further. So, yeah, it's
mm,
actually, you know, yeah, a lot of people say, oh, well, you know, like we'll just listen to loud music more, or you know, like go
mm,
out in the sun more, or you know, you're just sweating, it's fine. Like, and those things, yes, whilst cognitively we can kind of understand that, you know, we're not going to die from this, or you know,
mm,
but the way that our body responds neurologically, physiologically, that actually creates PTSD and trauma responses within
mm.
our brain, which is super negative. Um,
Yeah, such an important point, eh? And I
yeah.
love how you said it. It's not a preference, it's a need. And yes, we do understand that it's not going to kill us to
Mm,
do this or eat this or whatever, but our bodies is telling us something else. Our
hmm
bodies are actually telling us it is going to kill you if you put that like squishy banana in your mouth. It's so
exactly.
disgusting. I can't do it.
Yeah.
Um, and then if you force me to do it, like I absolutely hate flooding as well. I know that in a lot of behavioral therapies, they do like flooding with kids.
hmm
And I remember the specific case, and I still feel so bad that I was part of this team where the supervisor told us, oh, the kid doesn't like being told sorry. And now I can see it because I've got the experience. Like, obviously, he was going through, like, you're doing this on purpose.
mm
Why are you saying sorry? You probably hit me on purpose. So she was saying, we need to say sorry all the time. So we need to touch him, sorry, do this, sorry, sorry, sorry. So that was flooding. And I actually went to that child like years later and I said, look, I'm so sorry that we did this. And I'm apologizing really now from the heart. Like, I'm apologizing. I'm not saying the sorry to bother you. And you could see his eyes were just like, yeah, you caused me a lot of pain. And that's horrible. I mean, we don't want to do this.
No, no, of course not. Like, and you know, that's actually a interesting connection too. That a lot of our sensory responses are um, physical. So these things do cause physical harm, physical pain to us. You know, you might not understand that the bright lights or, you know, this kind of whatever that input is actually causing pain, and not just emotionally or yeah, mentally. It is physical pain a lot of the time when we're talking about sensory.
Yeah, this is, and it's been shown, right? It's been shown with neurology. Like, there
Exactly.
are areas in our brain that light up more intensely when we
Hmm.
have this type of input. I remember speaking to Stephanie Bethany, a friend of mine that's an autistic adult and or advocate and adult, but she was saying that she never knew how intensely the sensory input was, because she thought everybody was like going through this until she started asking the questions like, do you hear the light
Yes.
buzzing? Do you, you know, those the sound of it there, can you hear, like, is it louder than me talking to you? So she
Hmm.
was doing these experiments and they're like, no, 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 not at all. Does it feel like your brain is shaking
Yeah.
when, you know, when that buzzer goes off? Because those are the things that we feel. So
Hmm.
yeah, I think that's a good point to kind of check in
Hmm. Hmm.
um with
And
how the other people are experiencing it. Sorry.
yeah, no, and just the one last point on this, with the common
Mm.
misconceptions that I do want to make, is that often, you know, when we're talking about sensory sensitivities, you know, we're kind of led to believe that sensory sensitivities equals sensory overwhelm. And we talk about the deficits of sensory sensitivities instead of, which is necessary, you know, when we're identifying them in a clinical environment and in a treatment mindset, of course. But, you know, it is so important to like understand that these things don't necessarily mean that you are going to be sensory overwhelmed. And once you start to understand these things about yourself, that sensory overwhelm becomes, you know, less and less and less. And that actually you can enjoy these things, you know. Of course, it's a much more intense environment for us, but you know, now that I do have that level of control in my life, I'm an adult, I can dictate a lot of things about my environment. You know, I really enjoy being able to hear everything most of the time. You know,
Yes.
I love my sense of smell. Like I can
Mm.
predict things literally by my heightened senses. So it isn't always it isn't a negative. We just, and that's something that we should remember. I think, like, yeah,
Mm.
it's fun, it's
Yeah.
engaging, and it's individual. You know, it's a superpower.
Yeah, I really like that. I love the fact that you're also saying about the sense of smell. There are so many autistic friends of mine that love perfumes, like the different types of
Mm,
perfumes and so on, because their sense of smell is so great.
mm,
So they know exactly, oh, there's a hint of lavender and there's
mm.
the, yeah.
I'm like a baker and like a cook, you know, an
Oh,
amateur cook.
nice.
So I love being able to, yeah, pick up everything
Oh.
in that. So yeah.
That's awesome. Please do come and visit Portugal because I do not cook at all or bake. I need some help here. Um, okay, so how can someone start identifying their own sensory profile? This, I think,
Hmm.
is an important
Hmm.
question because how do we
Yeah.
start?
Yeah. You know, we, we already know a lot of things when we about ourselves when we start our sensory journey. So I think just having a an understanding when we're beginning this journey, I think you know, it's hard for us to connect. You know, our responses to sensory. You know, we might see the anxiety or the fatigue, you know, like you mentioned with your
Mm.
client, but not necessarily understand that those things are connected and related to sensory. So I think the one thing that you can do that beyond, like before you even go to a doctor or go to a specialist or, you know, get a profile done, is just to start applying a sensory lens to, you know, your environment and some of your daily interactions. You know, I often say, like, you might not learn anything new about yourself in your sensory journey, but you will have a different framework to identify and understand your your body in that environment. So, you know, you might not have these profound learnings of self because you're like, yeah, I know I'm anxious after that. Like that's always happened to me, or things, but connecting it to sensory. So apply a sensory lens. You know, when something happens, you know, if you're heightened emotions or you're shutting down or you have
Mm.
communication difficulties or you're fatigued or you just really dislike that new woman in the office for no apparent reason, like ask
There's
yourself,
a reason.
yeah, like from a sensory perspective, you know, what's different? Like,
Mm.
so has something changed? Is there a new addition to the environment? And
Mm.
just, yeah.
Yeah, I love the sensory lens because I think oftentimes we just give credit to behaviors and we're like, oh, there's a new
Mm,
person, must be my dislike for change,
mm,
or I was used to sitting here and now I'm sitting here. But it's also like, okay, now I'm sitting at a different spot, or there's another person in the room and there's less oxygen. I mean, the type of things that we think of as neurodivergent individuals, I go through a million thoughts and I'm like, she's stealing some of my oxygen.
mm.
Like, is there enough oxygen? Then I start doing research on oxygen levels in a room and how many people should, like, it's just, I do this in elevators a lot. But it is, if you think about it, is actually sensory related. If I
Mm,
could walk with a mask on, I really do
mm,
miss COVID. I'm so sorry to say
mm.
this, but I miss COVID days with the mask and the amount of space that you had from
It
people.
was very,
Those two
very,
things.
yeah, autistic
Totally.
focus, neurodivergent for that. Yeah, social distancing.
Yeah.
I'm like, great. Now people
Yeah.
won't ask me why I'm not shaking their hand or hugging them.
Yeah, exactly. Or like walking like in your bubble. I mean that's actually really good. That's a good way of looking through a sensory lens. Is think about your time during COVID. Now
Mm,
think about your time now, and all the changes,
mm,
and people are closer. You can smell people. You can. I don't know. It's like I feel like everything is just in my bubble now, all of a
mhm,
sudden
mhm.
again. So that's why I create like a little cozy corner. Were there any other things that you wanted to add with the identifying your sensory profile? Or can we move to the what tools or assessments do you recommend?
Let's move on. Yeah, shall we?
Okay.
I
Yeah.
mean,
So
yeah.
what tools are there any tools that you would recommend to creating a sensory profile for yourself?
Um, look, like I keep saying, there's no one size fits all. And
Mm.
uh, something that is, I believe, is actually a really big barrier to sensory regulation is more to do with our ability to communicate effectively and identify those things. So kind of not related to sensory at all. So I think
Mm.
feeling safe enough to kind of express yourself completely and honestly, and your
With
experiences.
somebody. With somebody
Yeah.
or by yourself. Yeah.
Well,
Okay.
even like of
Yeah.
course with someone, but even uh,
Mm.
yeah, having the confidence to kind of, or the understanding, I think, in sharing that, because that, like you said, I used to think everyone experienced these sense, like the world the way I do, and it wasn't until I was asked literally the right question. People have been asking me about my senses for a decade beforehand, but because of my communication uh, interpretation with autism, they weren't asking the right questions. So they would ask me something, and I'd be like, "Well, no,
Mm,
that doesn't happen. I don't, you know, do that." It wasn't until someone used, the right language, asked enough questions that there was
mm,
one that I identified with and could connect with. So um, I think I, I think that is a major one. Not kind of
mm,
dampening those experiences for yourself.
mm,
I mean, we at AS we use Dunn's model of sensory processing, which is a bit different to some of the other models, and I prefer it. I love it, just as a for many different reasons. But a lot of the time we can get stuck in this binary way of thinking. Like when it comes to sensory, it's either too much or too little input, and we forget to kind of look at all of the other things that go along with our responses to sensory. So
mm,
but I think if having sensory informed discussions, having a sensory specialist, someone who is
mm,
aware of the sensory systems, uh, not just a generalized clinician or
mm,
support. I think it's really important to have yeah someone who is aware of these things, because it is so nuanced and so individual that
mm,
you know yeah it, something that works for someone is not even going to be relevant to someone else, the person
mm,
standing next to them. So it's really difficult, and I mean, there's a lot of things that I do for all of my sensory issues that other people would hate that have the same sensory
yeah.
profile likes as me. So
I think it's very personalized, like you said, and whether they do it with AS social through the Duns model, which I know it's a bit more nuanced, which is nice and personalized, or they talk to somebody and they ask the questions. Like I think
exactly,
it's
it's
really important to stay curious.
it's not
Um,
necessarily dependent on the model or the therapy or the intervention.
exactly.
A lot of it comes down to our
Yeah.
ability to identify and communicate that. So,
Yeah, and even like tracking down. Okay, so like you said, let's say I do get frustrated when I go to the grocery store. So
mm,
then just writing down what did I experience while I was
mm,
in the grocery store? Because that's what, when I received my diagnosis, I went to the grocery store. At first, I was very relieved hearing that I have a diagnosis, and I wasn't like an imposter saying that I have ADHD. And then I went to the grocery store and I was like, oh, I hate it here. I hate
mhm,
the lights. I hate people around me touching me by accident, and the sounds and the smells and everything. I get super overwhelmed and I always buy way too much
mhm,
food, and that's definitely a trauma response plus my sensory system.
mhm.
But then I noted, and because I had that calmness of like, I have a diagnosis, there's a
Yes, you were
reason
able to kind of
there.
break
Yes,
down those things and not be in that like
exactly.
overwhelm response. Yeah,
Exactly. Yeah.
yeah.
So there was a reason, and it made it easier for me to
Hmm.
identify. So I think even if you don't have a diagnosis, I think it's important to validate, look, you're going through something
Hmm.
sensory.
Exactly, and sensory sensitivities aren't exclusive to another neurological condition. There are people who
Mm,
purely experience sensory sensitivities as a standalone diagnosis, and
mm.
I'm a firm believer that self-diagnosis is a diagnosis.
Yeah. Okay.
No one's wanting to identify these things about themselves to be cool, So if it's
Yeah, exactly.
a thing that helps you understand yourself better, I recognize that fully.
Yeah, I think also we don't want to be in the DSM. It's not like we're saying,
Mm,
hey, please give me a diagnosis.
Mm.
I know that we're enjoying this conversation, but we
Yeah.
have so many questions left, and we have got really good questions of the
Okay.
audience too. So I want to get through a few more. Can I
Hmm.
combine some of the questions? So, how can
Yes.
understanding your sensory profile help to day-to-day life, like at work, school, or in
Hmm.
relationships? And how do masking and sensory overwhelm interact during those times?
Well, like you just said, like understanding your sensory profile, it gives reason and validation to our, neurology, physiology, and our experiences. So that is major. That alone validates us. It gives
Yeah.
us the ability and power to uh, kind of leave it at the door. It's not a personality thing. It's not a behavior thing. It's not,
Yeah.
I'm not doing this because of any other reason than it is my body's response. So we're not being overly sensitive or just imagining these things. I think that is so powerful. And it's often the first thing I found, and for me personally, it was the first thing that I was able to effectively advocate and communicate as a direct support and need that I had. So it really kind of taught me uh, how to say no in a way, or to create barriers and
Mm.
boundaries for myself in intervention and in all other aspects of my autistic experience. So, yeah, I think that's good.
Mm.
Sorry, I'm just quickly reading those here. And something that was unexpected for me is actually what understanding ourselves uh, in a sensory capacity actually did was it allowed the other people in our life, the bystanders, to to uh, understand us in a way that created compassion and understanding for
Mm.
them. It removed any kind of personal uh, uh, judgment or ideas that they had in their own brain about anything. So it actually changed the way that other people interacted and supported me purely by me communicating that, which I didn't even realize because, you know, neurotypical people, they might be like, oh, well, why did Sammy shout at me the other day? Like, and get really personal about, our behaviors in those moments, even, if they know we're autistic or know we're neurodivergent, but kind of framing it from a social, sensory
Mm.
framework, it kind of like allowed, yeah, a bit more uh, compassion. Things
Mm.
weren't so personal, things weren't so deep. That it allowed me to re-engage and allowed them to engage with me a bit better. So that was
Mm.
super unexpected, but I think that's something major that kind of goes into understanding yourself actually impacts how other people uh, treat you, which, yeah,
Yeah. I
bizarre.
really like also I really like the explanation as well, because then it's not so kind of with a label where you say,
Mm.
oh, this is my autism or this is my ADHD. This is more my sensory profile is just like overwhelmed at the moment. So I really
Mm-hmm.
like that compassion too.
Mm.
Okay. I just want to see. So we've got quite a few questions left
Mm.
here, but I am saying, is it okay if we go a little bit over?
To
A little
me,
bit over time. Yeah.
yeah, no, of
Is it okay?
overwhelming tracking time. Yeah, of course.
Okay.
I'm
Okay.
so unaware of time right now.
Sorry. Okay. I'm so sorry, audience. We're
But
just
yeah,
going a
I'm like
little bit
also
over
it's the
time.
audience.
Yeah, the audience questions too. So I'm just going to try and finish here. So we've got the sensory, the overwhelm, and the masking, which can lead to burnout, of
Mm-hmm.
course.
Mm-hmm.
So that is, I think, just from a therapist point of view,
Yeah.
something that is quite serious that we really need to look at, so that we are becoming more aware of our sensory system, so that we don't push ourselves to suppress, because that's what we've seen in therapy a lot. I don't know if you have
Mhm.
any comments there.
Well, yeah, I made kind of the same notes there. So masking leads to sensory overwhelm, I think, and often our sensory experiences are regulatory as well. So they're the things that we're taught
Mm.
and told to mask or change behaviorally, when they're actually regulatory processes that we need to be in that environment and help us a lot. So when you're masking all of these behaviors under social expectation or whatever, it often leads us to, yeah, burning out from sensory overwhelm.
Mhm. Yeah. And we need to be careful of that. What are some hacks that have worked for you? And then I also want to ask if do you ever find do your sensory preferences ever change? I think we
Yeah,
did touch
so
on that, so we can actually skip
yeah,
over
that's
that.
a.
But
I've got a lot to say about that one. For the tools and
mhm.
hacks, I'm like, all as I wrote here, I was like, do not compromise. I'm like, sure, there's, I don't know, a million different things, but what I'm like, I don't have anything specific. I just learned not to compromise on those things and to, you know,
Nice.
yeah, uh, express them implicitly. So I think that is the biggest hack, you know?
Yeah, be unapologetically yourself.
Yes.
I love that.
You don't have to say sorry anymore. Yeah.
That's awesome.
And then moving on then to sensory preferences ever change. This is quite important, I think, and
Mm,
should be understood. They certainly can change, uh, and they certainly do evolve. I think there are about three key stages to your sensory journey through life. There's our core baseline, which is discoverable and identifiable from infancy, really. From an observational point of view. So that is our core sensory profile, if you will. And then I think
mm,
puberty is kind of the next phase of our
mm,
sensory journey. There's a lot of experiences through that time, bodily and sensory related, that are never experienced before or haven't been understood. So there's a whole new world of sensory experiences that we're having to learn to manage, to live with forever. So
yeah. The hormone
that definitely,
changes too.
yeah, yeah. So if we think about those things uh, aside, it's like all the hygienic things that have to go on, the management of all of these systems, all of our those
Mm,
sensory experiences are often heightened through puberty, and then often, a whole new world of sensory experiences happen.
mm,
And then the third phase, I think sex and relationships kind of bring
mm,
out the next catalyst for sensory evolution. So it will
mm,
kind of identify perhaps different sensory environments, scenarios, emotions, things like that, that you're going to have to learn, how to manage. But
yeah.
beyond, yeah, sorry.
No, I was just saying it's such an important phase that we don't talk enough about,
Mm,
I think, as neurodivergent individuals in relationships,
mm,
intimate relationships,
mm-hmm,
how we experience it, and
mm-hmm.
how the world kind of believes how we should experience
Yeah, exactly.
intimacy, and so
And
different. Yeah, I think that's another hour on itself
I
that
know,
we
I
can talk
know.
about another day.
But but beyond that, like beyond those three kind of phases, I don't really think sensory changes that much. I mean, trauma, whether that's physical or psychological, can definitely impact, the way that we respond to sensory input. But generally, I mean, yeah, yeah, I think it evolves. I don't think you'll randomly,
Mm,
get a heightened sense of smell, or you'll have a sense
mm,
come online. It will impact you differently. The environment will be different. The management tools will change, but at the
mm,
core, your sensory profile. yeah, doesn't really.
That's interesting because I always say sensory profiles change all the time, but what I mean is different to what you're saying. So what I mean is that I wake up sometimes and I'm really lethargic, so I would
Mhm.
want to listen to Jeremy Loops or
Mm,
Anna Wolf or whatever, really loud. Whereas when I wake up quite anxious, I just want quiet. So that
mm,
could mean that somebody would look at my sensory system and they would be like, wait, you're not sensitive to sound because you're listening to loud music. But what I am sensitive to is the input, and it
yes.
collides with my emotions and how I'm
Mhm.
feeling for the day. So I think it's important to know it might change, but
Mm,
it's not like the core doesn't change. I'm still
mm,
sensitive to sound. I
mm,
just need something else. Yeah, I think
mhm,
that's
mhm.
where we agree, but it
Yes.
doesn't sound like we agree.
No, well, yeah, I know. I'm like, you're saying the same thing as I'm saying, really, but
Yeah. Yeah, in different terms.
yeah.
Last question before we head over to these awesome
Oh, yeah.
questions from the audience. How has this helped you in your work with AS Social, and what do you do at AS Social?
Okay.
Let's talk
Well,
about your company quickly. Yeah.
this was the one question that I didn't answer. But
Who
yeah, I
are you,
mean,
Sam?
yeah, obviously it helps. Yeah, in many connecting with autistic people, blah 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 blah. AS, I mean, is purely a passion project of mine. I created a sensory program because I had been involved in so many sensory programs as a child that
Interesting.
didn't really support autistic socialization. You know, it was still,
Mm,
teaching masking skills, teaching you what you should do, to perceive the neurotypical social environment. So um, I just kind of got fed up with it and took took lead in that. And I believe that positive social experiences and understanding for autistic people, it helps all facets of our lives. It
mm,
prolongs quality of life. It helps our overall health and well-being. All of these things that are so necessary. And social environment to me is every environment. That was always the thing I didn't
exactly.
understand. I'm like, going to work is social, going to
Mm,
school and education is social. I'm around other
mm,
people. So every experience was social to me.
mm,
And yeah, I spent a lot of time observing and watching and
mm,
being engaged with things. And yeah, just thought,
mm,
let's break the mold of this neurotypical way of understanding the world when
mm,
yeah, I experience social very differently, as do we all, and
mm.
I think it's important to share that knowledge.
Yeah, and be okay with it. I love that. So it
Mm,
really will help with the confidence to show that, look, the way that you're experiencing the world might be different. And like you said, anything and everything is social. When I walk out of this house, it becomes a social event because somebody
hmm.
might randomly say hi to me. And how do I respond? Do I have to now engage in a long conversation
Yeah,
or short? And there aren't these rules that we can follow because it feels so out of place because of our sensory system.
yeah,
So
exactly.
having a space like AS Social where you can, and Caboose actually, because
Well,
it's also like a
exactly, and
social
that's
environment.
that's the comment out. I love it. I'm like, once you start hanging out with more neurodivergent and autistic people, that becomes the
Yes,
normal, and so much of
exactly.
the stuff, the noise, is removed. It's not even
Yeah, exactly.
within
We
those.
feel okay.
Yeah,
We feel, yeah, I can just be myself with you. I
yeah,
don't feel like you're gonna judge me at all if I like start picking up my nails and stuff. You're just gonna be like, oh, whatever. She's a bit anxious, but it's
yeah.
fine. It's not like, or I speak too much or I go off topic.
Mm.
Anyways, speaking of going off topic, let's stick to the topic. Okay, so there were so many questions. I do want you to just tell me what the website is of your company so that I can also put it in here.
Oh yes, it's just as.social. www.as.social.
.com.
No, just dot social. Dot
Oh,
dot social
really?
is the dot com. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay,
Mm.
fancy. Okay, so Michelle was saying, I find that if I'm grumpy when I get home, it is
Hmm.
often because I'm overwhelmed from the lights and sounds of work. I'm so with you. I hate noise canceling headphones as I feel like I'm out of control. That's very interesting. So this
Yes.
is very relatable to what we said earlier. And then Rock said, my son did the that with the vacuum, hates the noise unless he's the one holding it. Tess said, I'm curious how to help people develop awareness of their sensory preferences when this concept is newer to them. Um, how to develop awareness of their sensory preference. I think we spoke about this when we said we can write down
Hmm.
how you're experiencing an environment or speak to somebody,
Hmm.
right? Or was
Yeah,
there
just
another
applying that
one?
sensory lens, I guess, to, problem solving, and things like that. So yeah, I think just start asking questions realistically.
Mm.
Uh,
Sensory questions, yeah, and
yeah,
not just say like,
not
was it a
related to
specific?
behavior.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yes, exactly, yeah. Because I would often say, like you said, with the person that you're like, I just don't like this person, and it might be the person because our
Yes.
intuition is very strong, but it might also be that the person came in and they were shouting or they
Yes,
were
or
saying
that
too close to
the
us, and that's a
laundry
sensory thing.
detergent that they use is too
Oh yes,
disruptive.
or that
Think,
perfume is too much. Yeah, I
yeah.
get like, yeah, I sometimes like have this visceral reaction when there's somebody with a lot of perfume. I'm like, oh, I'm like, oh, Karla, you can't do that. That's inappropriate.
Who?
And
Yeah.
Tess was also saying sensory joy exists, which I love.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, sometimes when I feel something sensory that I absolutely love, I really go on like the stimming journey. I'm just like, I
Yes.
don't know if this. Then Sarah said, sorry, I'm just going
Oh,
through
yeah.
questions because I know everybody is also tight with time. Do you offer or know of anyone who offers sessions to speak about this for educating
Mm.
employees at corporate companies? This would be so helpful for people to know. At the place I work, they have a neurodiversity committee,
Mm-hmm.
so that they could probably be keen. So
Mm-hmm.
yes, we do that. I think you do that too,
Yeah, I
right?
mean, AS does that. There's some great
Yeah.
uh, specialists in Australia that offer in-service training workshops that are actually sensory informed, 100%. I mean, I mean, I don't.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, Caboose does that too. But I mean,
yeah,
anyone
yeah,
really that specializes
just
in this field,
mm,
they can listen to this conversation.
yeah,
Maybe that's something, Sarah, that you can send to them, and you can say, "Hey, maybe just watch this." If there are specific questions or a specific training, we can
yeah.
create that or ask Sam and their company to also help.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Get in touch with me if you, yeah,
Yeah.
would like to learn more or have more questions. But yeah, I think,
Do they
something
get
that's,
in?
okay.
Sorry. There you go.
Something that I love about sensory too is that it once you are in a sensory inclusive environment or sensory aware, it truly helps every person,
Exactly.
not just
Yeah.
yourself, not just someone who
Yeah.
is sensory sensitivity. It allows for so many different things, greater interaction, like is phenomenal. So removing that
Yeah.
one thing is truly, I believe, the first thing that any inclusive, accessible environment should, yeah, employ.
Yeah. Yeah, it just creates a calm environment for
Mm.
everyone. I mean, if there are things that we can do for as accommodations that are
Mm.
easy to implement for the
And
entire
from a
workforce,
design
then why
perspective,
not?
I mean, from a,
Yeah,
there's so many aspects of sensory that you
yeah.
could just, yeah, we live in this disrupted world already. So, I mean,
Mm. Okay. Getting in touch with you, can she just maybe email you
um,
through the website? Is
yeah,
that
I think through
okay?
the website, 100%, there's
Okay.
should be a little contact form. um,
Okay.
Get in
Perfect.
touch, message me on LinkedIn or however. I'm pretty sure Caboose has shared some
Yeah.
things. So, um, yeah,
Yeah. Are you on Caboose? You should be on Caboose, eh?
I love Caboose. Like, the best thing about it is I engage as an autistic individual. Just
Yeah.
in a discussion,
Nice.
and it's just so natural. Like I'm not even
Yeah.
here to promote business or for it to lead anywhere. I'm just
Yeah.
an autistic person hanging out with. Uh,
Chatting.
yeah, exactly. So
Yeah. Well, I need to find you on Caboose. Okay, and then what is the model? I haven't heard of it. We spoke about the done sensory model.
hmm,
I don't know if there's anything that you wanted to talk about
expand on.
there.
So yeah, I mean the Dunn model is different in its approach and understanding of sensory input and deficit, really. So it takes into account the kind of neurological processes separate to the behavior of sensory, which not all sensory profiles do. It might not be
Mm,
necessary. It might not be relevant to everyone, but for me as a practitioner and as a sensory sensitive person, I've felt the comprehensive data that it kind of it it gives a deeper understanding of your neurological thresholds to sensory and not just the input of sensory. If that makes sense, or if
yeah, yeah, yeah,
yeah.
that makes sense. I think also just reading up about the Dunn's model could help with that because
Mm,
it does look like a nice model to implement. There were quite a few more questions. I'm so
mm.
sorry. Do sensory issues impact adult relationships? I could definitely comment on this and
Yes,
say
go.
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. It has impacted my entire yeah, all of my
Every
relationships,
relationship. Yeah.
intimate relationship, friendships, you know, and I need to find those people where I am able to be myself, and that understand and that are okay with me saying, look, I'm only going to stay for an hour. I had the other night I was telling my friends, look, I can come for drinks, but there are going to be a lot of people, so I'll stay for 1 hour
Mm.
and then I'm off. I'm not doing dinner because it's too many new people. I can't
Mm-hmm.
do it.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, definitely. I think the more aware you are, the more you can share. Also, I don't know
Mm-hmm.
if you have anything there to add.
I mean, 100%. Like, separate to uh, intimate relationships, yeah, family, familiar, friends, everything, social interactions, all of those things are impacted. But then again, even deeper. I mean, I've never been in a relationship, in an intimate relationship, uh, partnership. So definitely it impacts that for me because yeah,
Mm,
you know, there's a lot of self-preservation that goes along with that. Like you said, like
mm,
can I feel be myself around these people? You know, sharing a home with someone I don't do. So
yeah,
you know that when you yeah when you think about sensory, it can impact so many different things, but it doesn't have to be negative. You know, once you're aware of
yeah.
these things, you can, like you said, advocate for it, communicate it, you know, I ghost people constantly, or like I'll, you know,
Mm,
it's so abrupt when I've reached my threshold. I'm like,
yeah.
everyone
Are you
needs
a
to leave
ninja?
my house immediately. I'm going to bed, and it's like,
Yeah.
if you don't
I
understand those
always
things, yeah,
yeah. I ninja when I get out of I just like I'm gonna leave now. I'm not saying
yeah,
goodbye to anyone.
no,
Okay, I am cautious of the time because I
yeah.
do know that everybody is busy too. So I'm gonna just do another 5 minutes or so and try and see if we can get through all of these questions. Do you think your sensory issues continue into old age? And then Janelle said that, and then Michelle said, I think mine have gotten more intense the older I get. I am similar to that because I've become more aware of it and I've
Mm-hmm,
suppressed it less. I'm more aware of it really bothers me when there's loud noises or bright lights. So I
mm-hmm,
don't know if
mm-hmm.
you agree with that.
Yeah, I guess so. Like, I think, yeah, your capacity to uh, yeah, endure those things, you know, definitely fluctuates. And yeah, uh, maybe you just get better at recognizing it, like you said. So you're hyper aware of
Mm.
those things. So yeah, you'll notice it more. Whether it's negatively impacts you or not is another thing, I think.
Yeah, then there's some really nice comments here. There's some just validation about the superpowers. And then Addie said, your feedback is so interesting, Sam. I've enjoyed the mingling of humor with Inside Awesome. I love humor too. Thank
I'm
you.
glad there's been some
And
insight. Yeah, I was
yeah,
worried.
exactly. This is the only way that we cope is through humor, right? Okay, and then we were just talking about the recording. So the recording will be available soon. I think Rox is going to send it out later tonight already. Rox, get some sleep. I just want to say thank you so much to the audience for this lovely interaction, because I absolutely love it when I get interaction. It feels like I'm not just by myself and I don't get as anxious. And then to you, Sam, it has been such a joy to share some of these conversations with you. And it feels like we're closer now, even though we're so far away.
I know. I'm already dreaming of my Portugal experience.
Oh,
yeah.
definitely. And then baking here for me, for
Oh, but
sure.
yes, completely. I'll just be in the kitchen. Yeah.
Oh, it's like you're allowed to stay, but you can only cook and bake. No, you can go to the beach too once a day. But anyways, okay, so like an hour. I'm just gonna wrap up. So I want to remind the audience that we have a range of divergent discussions coming up. We'll be talking to Joe from Kaiko Fidgets. I absolutely love these fidgets. I don't know if you know about them, but
Yes.
Kaiko Fidgets are awesome. It's a family-owned business, and they will be talking about to us about stimming. I can't believe I'm not doing this. I'm so upset. And we have the amazing Sarah Hayden join us next month too. So you can get those tickets if you go to the website or the app. Please join us on Caboose and on AS Social. I'm on Caboose too. So if you want to
I
connect
love
with me.
Caboose. Yes, okay, I'm going to add
Nice.
you. Yes.
Yes, please. Thank you so much, Sam. It has been
Thank you,
lovely. And thank you,
Karla. Yeah.
audience.
Cheers.
Okay, great. Everybody's saying thank you too. Thank you for the highly informative discussion. Thank you both. Really interesting. Thanks for this awesome discussion. Thank you so much. This is validating.